Would you entrust your life to an animal that, at its core, was fundamentally predisposed to distrust everything, including you? Or would you prefer one that was bred, generation after generation, to obey without hesitation? The truth is unsettling. Not all animals are equipped to coexist with humans. And this has nothing to do with training. It's about DNA. Imagine a horse, standing atop a frigid, windswept hill, the wind slicing through the air, devoid of protection or sanctuary. Just him, his hooves firmly planted on uneven stones, and an instinct as ancient as time itself. This is a Mustang, a horse not sculpted by human hands, but by hunger, cold, and relentless predator pursuit. Every reflex, every decision, every flicker of distrust is there because it preserved the lives of its ancestors. He is alive today because of his ability to escape. Now, place a Doberman beside him. Imposing, alert, muscular. But unlike the Mustang, this dog did not survive the wilderness. It survived human selection. It was intentionally bred, over generations of selective coupling, to become what it is: obedient, loyal, fearless. Its natural instinct is not to flee from danger, it is to await a command. Two animals, two divergent genetic histories. One is a product of raw nature, the other of behavioral engineering. One reacts instinctively, the other through genetic conditioning. And what does this have to do with the horse you ride today? Everything. Because many of the horses that coexist with you bear profound traits from these two lineages. Some possess the untamed spirit of the Mustang. Others, the tempered disposition of human selection. And this difference is not merely visible, it is visceral. It lies in how they perceive, react, trust, or don't. If this perspective is shifting how you view horses, share your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know if you've experienced anything similar. And if this content is resonating with you, subscribe here. This conversation will delve much deeper. So, what exactly are we talking about when we say DNA marked by wild adaptation versus DNA sculpted by human selection? Let's start from the very beginning, in a straightforward, uncomplicated manner. The Mustang you imagine there, standing on that hill, carries within it a brutal genetic legacy. Its ancestors had no choice: adapt or perish. Harsh winters. Only the horses with the densest coats and most efficient metabolism survived. Lurking predators? Only the swiftest, the most vigilant, those endowed with instantaneous reflexes, managed to escape. Lack of water and food? Only those capable of traversing vast distances on minimal energy remained alive. Generation after generation, nature relentlessly culled the weak, the sluggish, the unprepared. And what remained? A horse whose DNA was literally sculpted for extreme survival. This process is neither swift nor benign. It is pure natural selection. Every physical characteristic, every behavioral trait of the Mustang exists because it proved efficacious, because it preserved lives, because it enabled that horse to reach reproductive age and propagate those genes. The outcome: an animal of incredible resilience, inherently wary, and fiercely independent. A horse that requires no human intervention for its survival. Indeed, a horse that has learned, over centuries, that excessive trust can prove fatal. Now, let us turn to the other extreme, the Doberman. This canine never confronted wolves. It never fled from lions. It never endured starvation on frozen plains. The Doberman's lineage commences in late 19th century Germany, with a man named Carl Friedrich Louis Doberman, a tax collector who required personal protection. He sought a specific type of canine: robust, loyal, courageous, and compliant. Consequently, he embarked on a systematic crossbreeding endeavor. German Shepherd, Rottweiler, Pinscher, perhaps even Greyhound were among the breeds used. Each cross had a distinct objective: enhanced strength, heightened loyalty, greater obedience, mitigated uncontrolled aggression, reduced fear. What transpired there was artificial selection. It was not nature's discernment, it was ours, and we accomplished this rapidly. Within mere decades, we forged a canine that had never before existed in the wild. A dog whose DNA was literally engineered to serve humanity, to protect, to obey, to trust. And herein lies the pivotal point you must grasp. These two processes, natural selection and artificial selection, yield profoundly divergent animals. Not merely in their appearance, but in their behavior, their cognitive processes, and their reactions to the world. For DNA dictates more than just coat color or size. It profoundly influences temperament, instincts, and emotions. Let us delve deeper into this distinction. For when one comprehends the impact of wild existence on a horse's DNA, one begins to discern previously overlooked nuances. The Mustang, as you are aware, is a prey animal. Its ancestors endured millions of years as the hunted. Every second of inattention could spell demise. What, then, was the consequence of natural selection? She created a horse endowed with preternaturally acute senses. Its vision is nearly panoramic. Its hearing captures sounds from miles away. Its olfactory sense detects predators even before they are seen. And, most crucially, it possesses a hypersensitive nervous system, perpetually on high alert. The Mustang's brain is programmed for one thing above all else: survival. This means it doesn't process information as we do. It doesn't rationalize whether a strange noise poses a danger or not. It reacts instantly. It flees first and questions later. For in the wild, a second's hesitation is a death sentence. And this reflex, this ultra-rapid fear response, is indelibly etched into its very DNA. It's not a choice. It's pure genetic programming. Now, consider the social structure of Mustangs. They do live in herds, yet the hierarchy is unyielding. There is a lead mare who dictates the group's movements, when they graze, when they drink. There is a stallion who guards the rear, confronting threats head-on. Every horse knows its place. And this intricate organization is not cultural. It is instinctive, inherent. It's in their blood. Disorganized herds simply do not survive. Predators target the weak, the isolated, the confused. Thus, natural selection favored horses that inherently understood hierarchy, that followed leaders, that cooperated in silent unison. Another fascinating aspect is their extreme physical endurance. A Mustang can traverse dozens of miles daily in relentless pursuit of water and pasture. It can subsist on meager, dry vegetation, almost entirely devoid of nutritional value. Its metabolism is extraordinarily efficient. It stores energy, conserves vital resources, because in nature, abundant sustenance is never a guarantee. So, its body has adapted to withstand scarcity, to survive even when all odds are stacked against it. Furthermore, Mustangs' hooves are exceptionally hard and resilient. They navigate sharp rocks and uneven terrain, unshod and untended, yet rarely experience issues. Why? Because horses with fragile hooves would limp, fall behind, and inevitably be devoured. It's that simple. Nature eliminated any weakness. Now, contrast this with the Doberman. This canine was not forged by scarcity. It was not hunted by predators. It did not need to cultivate extreme distrust. In fact, the inverse occurred. Humans selectively bred Dobermans that were trusting, that obeyed commands even in perilous situations, that could override their flight instincts to protect their owner, displaying courage rather than fear. The result? An animal with an entirely disparate temperament. The Doberman is fiercely loyal. It doesn't flee. It confronts. It awaits commands. It regards humans as figures of authority. This isn't merely training, it's genetic. Decades of artificial selection have cultivated a dog whose brain, whose very DNA, is intrinsically programmed for cooperation with us. And here's the pivotal insight. These distinctions are not superficial. They are profoundly ingrained. They fundamentally shape every decision, every reaction, and every behavioral manifestation of these animals. The Mustang's inherent wariness stems from its distrustful ancestors. Survival. The Doberman's trust, conversely, is a legacy of its reliable forebears having been selectively chosen. Let's now apply this to practical reality, to our daily interactions, specifically concerning the horses you encounter, ride, and are surrounded by. For comprehending this fundamental distinction between wild and domesticated DNA isn't merely an exercise in scientific theory. It profoundly alters the very paradigm of your relationship with horses. Consider a horse residing on a stud farm. It benefits from a stable, meticulously balanced feed, routine veterinary care, and professional farriery. It has been meticulously bred through generations of human selection. Its lineage was selected for a docile temperament, aesthetic appeal, and superior performance. Conversely, individuals exhibiting heightened wariness, aggression, or excessive independence were deliberately excluded from breeding programs. Indeed, they were actively culled. Consequently, what you encounter today is an equine whose DNA has been refined, domesticated, and meticulously molded for coexistence with humans. However, here lies a crucial nuance often overlooked. Even within these highly domesticated equines, the primal ors, wild DNA persists, perhaps dormant, yet undeniably present. For one cannot simply expunge millions of years of evolutionary heritage through a mere few decades of selective breeding. The prey instinct remains acutely active. Inherent wariness endures. The flight response can still be triggered instantaneously. This is precisely why even the most docile horse might startle at a sudden gust of wind carrying a plastic bag. Even the most extensively trained can rear in response to the unexpected. And even the most dependable can, in a split second, revert to the primal, wild creature its ancestors once were, because its brain remains fundamentally wired for survival. And when fear takes hold, the rational faculties are overridden. Instinct invariably assumes primacy. Now, contrast this with the Doberman, or indeed, any highly domesticated canine. Certainly, it retains its primal instincts. However, its behavioral response mechanism is distinctly different. It instinctively looks to its owner for guidance, anticipating a command, implicitly trusting that the human possesses the requisite knowledge to navigate the situation. This transcends mere training. It is embedded in its DNA, a culmination of centuries of artificial selection implicitly instructing the animal, trust the human. Horses do not possess this trait, or at least, not to the same degree of intensity. Even the most thoroughly domesticated among them retain a profound sense of independence, an inherent wariness that is intrinsically woven into their very being. This is not a flaw, it's not obstinacy, nor is it a deficiency in training. It is pure genetics, the primal DNA asserting itself. Proceed with caution, assess. Do not trust implicitly. And here lies a revelation that may perpetually alter your perception. Once you grasp this fundamental truth, once you accept that the horse before you inherently carries a DNA profoundly shaped by extreme survival, you cease to contend with its intrinsic nature. You discontinue expecting it to react in the manner of a canine. Instead, you begin to honor its instincts, opting to collaborate with them rather than to resist them. 4. Consider this. The wild Mustang is neither superior nor inferior to a domesticated horse. It is simply distinct. It embodies traits meticulously forged by the brutal existence on the plains. Unparalleled resilience, acute wariness, and profound independence. And even if your horse has never traversed a prairie nor confronted a predator, it may still bear the indelible echoes of that ancestral DNA. Its reactions may only become comprehensible when viewed through the lens of its evolutionary lineage. Conversely, horses that have undergone generations of human selective breeding possess an invaluable attribute. They have been refined to coexist harmoniously with us, to acquiesce to our leadership, and to extend a greater degree of trust. This undoubtedly streamlines companionship. Yet, it does not obliterate their fundamental essence. They remain prey animals, creatures that, when confronted with genuine fear, revert to their most primordial instincts. Thus, the next occasion your horse shies away from something seemingly innocuous, remember this: it is not being recalcitrant. It is simply embodying its equine nature. Should you desire a profound connection with it, you must comprehend that its DNA narrates a tale, a narrative of survival, of apprehension, of adaptation, and this history does not vanish, it merely transmutes. If you are now beginning to perceive horses from an altered perspective, I invite you to leave a comment. Share your evolving insights, for such discourse serves to unite us and enhances our collective understanding of these magnificent creatures. Now, I shall unveil something truly transformative, an insight rarely contemplated by the majority, yet possessing the profound capacity to utterly reshape how you perceive any horse before you. Have you ever observed how some equines appear inherently more placid and self-assured, while others perpetually exhibit nervousness, hypervigilance, and profound wariness? Have you ever pondered why this occurs? Even when both receive identical training, care, and attention, the answer resides within their DNA, and not merely in the DNA itself, but in how their ancestral environment shaped that genetic blueprint. For here lies the profound truth. Genetics are not immutable. They respond to their environment. They adapt, and these adaptations can indeed be bequeathed to subsequent generations. There exists a scientific discipline known as epigenetics, and its revelations are nothing short of captivating. Extreme experiences endured by an animal's forebears can literally modify the expression of specific genes in succeeding generations. Trauma, scarcity, persistent peril, these all leave indelible imprints upon the DNA, which are then passed down, not as genetic mutations, but rather as the activation or deactivation of particular genes. This implies that a Mustang whose progenitors navigated brutal winters, fended off predator attacks, and endured extreme famine might carry within its DNA an amplified susceptibility to stress, a heightened fear response, a more profound inherent wariness. Not because the individual animal personally experienced these adversities, but because its forebears did. And this genetic memory was subsequently transmitted. This elucidates why one might take two horses of the same breed, provide them with an identical environment and treatment, yet observe markedly divergent reactions. One might exhibit a placid, confident demeanor, the other an anxious, reactive disposition. The explanation, therefore, lies in their respective genetic histories, in the tribulations their ancestors confronted, in what became indelibly etched into their DNA. Now, let us reconsider the Doberman. It too possesses a genetic history. However, this narrative diverges significantly. It was not penned by nature, it was authored by humanity. And what, precisely, did we do? We systematically selected for the most composed, the most compliant, the most trustworthy canines. We culled the nervous, the aggressive, the unpredictable, and we reiterated this process, generation after generation, until the Doberman's very DNA became entirely sculpted by our selective choices. The outcome? An animal genetically predisposed to trust humans, to exhibit obedience, to collaborate with us, not merely through training, but because it was intrinsically bred for such a purpose. Its brain, its nervous system, its hormonal makeup, all were selected to foster cooperation. And here lies the transformative insight. When one comprehends this, when one truly internalizes this truth, one ceases to judge horses by the benchmarks of other animals. One ceases to expect them to comport themselves like canines. You begin to appreciate that they carry a distinct genetic heritage, a different history, and a unique evolutionary imperative. The Mustang wasn't engineered for our service. It was forged for survival, and that truth is imprinted upon its very cellular structure. Even if it has never roamed a plain, even if it was foaled in a stud farm, even if it has undergone training since its earliest days as a colt, that untamed DNA persists, whispering ancient instincts, keeping it vigilant, fostering a natural wariness. And this is not a deficit, it is an inherent strength. It underpins their millions of years of existence, their resilience through ice ages, against formidable predators, and amidst extreme climatic shifts. This wild DNA stands as a masterpiece of evolutionary design. Yet, it also implies that engaging with horses demands a degree of commitment not similarly required when interacting with canines. Profound patience, an abiding respect for their primal instincts, and an understanding that trust, for an equine, is not innate. Rather, it is painstakingly constructed, painstakingly earned, and can be shattered in a single, fear-induced instant. Conversely, horses that have undergone centuries of human-driven selective breeding possess an advantage. Their DNA carries a heightened predisposition to acquiesce to our leadership. They have been intrinsically molded, over countless generations, to coexist with us, to tolerate our presence, and to respond to our cues. This undeniably streamlines interactions. However, it neither obliterates their fundamental instincts nor eradicates their inherent fear. It does not erase the intrinsic essence of their being. So, when you gaze upon a horse now, what truly registers? Do you merely perceive a creature of beauty, strength, and utility? Or do you begin to discern the profound narrative it embodies? The relentless struggle for survival, the unforgiving crucible of natural selection, the very DNA sculpted by millennia of life and death, or, in the instance of domesticated equines, the deliberate human choices that have sculpted every trait, every behavioral nuance, every instinctual reaction. Both narratives are equally compelling. Both possess immense value. Yet, grasping the distinction between them is what elevates one from a mere rider of horses to a genuine connoisseur of their very being. Ultimately, what is the profound implication of all this? When you comprehend that a horse's DNA has been inscribed either by the crucible of wild survival or by the deliberate hand of humanity, you are not simply acquiring knowledge of genetics. You are learning to truly see, to instinctively feel, to acutely recognize that every movement, every subtle reaction, every fleeting moment of fear or burgeoning trust encapsulates an invisible narrative within its very core. A narrative you cannot alter, but one you are bound to respect. For at their essence, horses are not blank slates for us to sculpt from their very genesis. They are beings imbued with a profound heritage, carrying genetic memories that trace back through vast expanses of time. And when you embrace this truth, when you cease resisting their inherent nature and instead begin to work in concert with the intrinsic qualities they embody, everything transforms. The connection deepens profoundly. Trust is meticulously forged. And you finally grasp that the essence lies not in controlling a horse, but in revering its very being. It is about respecting the arduous journey that has led them to this very moment. It is about acknowledging that within them pulses a heart sculpted by the crucible of life itself, be it by the untamed forces of nature or by the deliberate choices of humanity. Yet always, always, it is shaped by a power far transcending any of us. And this profound understanding transcends mere equine interaction. It informs how we perceive every living being, the recognition that each carries the indelible imprints of its unique odyssey. And these marks deserve our profound respect, our unwavering patience, our contemplative, attentive silence. So, the next time you find yourself in the presence of a horse, pause for a moment, gaze into its eyes, and ask yourself, what profound narratives does this DNA encapsulate? What formidable battles were triumphed over for its presence here, now, breathing beside you? How many generations of survival, of critical choices, of profound adaptation resonate within it at this very instant? For the undeniable truth is this: you are never merely standing before a horse. You are standing before millions of years of intricate evolution, before instincts that have preserved countless lives, before fears that proved absolute